Alright, friends and neighbors, welcome back. We have been talking about network engineers and finding a job as a network engineer. What does it mean? What are the levels and things like that? So we're going to continue this week with money and skills, and then we're going to decide maybe what we'll do toward the end of this video with next steps. So first we have a couple of updates. One is that, normally we talk about level 1, level 2, level 3 network engineers, but level 4 does exist. Now level 1 was that sort of help desk, front line, engaging with customers, maybe the triage on the front line, taking care of problems as they first come up. The level 2 will be that escalation. They'll also be in charge of projects, moving things along, maybe working on budgets, things like that. And the level 3 engineer is all about the org structure, right? It's the top dog, keeping the company going, figuring out next steps, modifications to network design, figuring out how to adapt to business conditions, things of that sort. Well, L4 came along. This came across my desk this week. And this is really a very forward-looking sort of position, trying to gaze out past the horizon, see what's coming, and be prepared for it. So some of the description is here: to create network architectures that can evolve to needs for product, services, and initiatives. And all this with the goal of improving network availability, security, and visibility. So really, really forward thinking, really sort of strategic thinking. If we take a look at the must-have skills, some of this stuff will sound familiar, right? TCP/IP, routing, IPv4, and IPv6. We can assume that they want you to be intimately familiar with these topics, but we also see that there's 2 years plus desired or professional experience in cloud network engineering. So as we know, lots of things are going to the cloud. This one happens to be an L4 engineer position directed at cloud services and cloud provisioning. And then, of course, there's the programming, but then we see one of those softer skills popping up here: pragmatic thinking, practical thinking, the ability to break down complex problems into bite-sized chunks and keep moving forward. And then experience supporting core infrastructure on an on-call rotation. So L1, L2, L3, those are the common terms, but there are other terms that are out there. Now, some fantastic folks from industry did weigh in on the conversation. You may have seen some of the comments. Soft skills are sometimes referred to as human attributes. L1 engineers may be replaced by AI solutions. We see a lot of folks coming up with large language models to address general problems, right? That's what ChatGPT is all about, Copilot and things like that. But we also see some very specific projects aimed at programming, and in some cases they might also be aimed at troubleshooting a particular vendor's gear and maybe solving those problems that are normally addressed by L1 engineers. No matter at which level you exist, you're going to be dealing with people, right? Sometimes it's that frontline thing, sometimes it's with colleagues. But no matter what, you want to be one of those folks that's, that can work with people. You don't want to be banging away just on a keyboard and that's where you live, because the ability to work with people, have the ability to communicate ideas, maybe even compromise a little bit, is the thing that sets you apart from one of those people that either A, doesn't get along, or can't be approached, or is sort of just in the keyboard all day long. Now, with regard to the skills, I think what I'm going to do on this playlist is add sort of the first video in a topic area. So for example, IPv4 or IPv6. Now I'm just going to stick the first video out there in this playlist. If you feel like you want to go deeper, then there are links in each one of the show notes. But I'll just have this sort of general list of really, really important topics, and then you can decide how far you want to go. And so the playlist should be short, but it is that set of skills that we see in all of these job postings. Now, how much can you make as a network engineer? Well, it is all over the place, but here are some values that I found after looking at dozens of job postings. Interestingly, the L1 engineer is usually the only one that has an hourly rate associated with it. So sometimes these are not even positions that have lots and lots of benefits associated with them. I saw them as low as $34 an hour all the way up to $60 an hour, depending on how you do the calculation. That's somewhere in the neighborhood of 65 or 68,000 to 100 to 120,000. The L2 engineer, sometimes called an associate engineer, ranges from 75 to 115K. Now these are the jobs that I looked at, right? And then the L3 or senior engineer is 70 to 188, coming up on that $200,000 a year mark. Now the interesting thing about this is that depending on the company, right, the L2 engineer and the L3 engineer appear to have the same starting salary, but they have a different top end. And then there's that crazy L4 engineer position that, well, it seems like you can get, nearly $750,000 a year. These salary levels depend a lot on whether you're on-site or you're in person versus a remote support. The type of industry, whether or not you're in service provision, the type of engineer, right, IT, network, systems, security, VoIP, all of these are different kinds of engineers and different kinds of positions. But then also, this depends on your experience level. So some jobs insist on a certain level of experience. But what I did notice in taking a look at these is one big difference. Even if they have a very similar starting rate, the difference is in that top end, how far you can go and what you can end up earning after a couple of years, or if you've got a lot of experience coming in. So the takeaways from today: the network engineer descriptions vary quite a bit in terms of responsibility, focus area, and the skills needed. Skills at what level, the things that you'll be required to do, the things you'll be required to know, your level of responsibility, but also the human skills that you might be needing at the different levels. The money is decent, and it ranges from decent all the way up to, wow, that's a lot of money. But of course, this depends on the kind of network engineer you want to be and that experience. So as I was thinking about this particular playlist and things that we might cover on the channel, I thought maybe it's time to dive into some certs. Certainly if you're on this channel and you spend a lot of time video diving, you could pass certifications easily with what we have on the channel. But maybe we'll take a very focused approach to a couple of certifications. Alright, there we have it. Like and subscribe if the conversation is helping. May your packets always reach their destinations. And hey, this is Networking Jobs. You can do this.